Here we are,
We're back.
and talking about the second agreement.
The second agreement.
We're talking about the four agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and this is the second agreement, which is don't take anything personally.
What was the first one? Just so that the viewers can.
The first agreement, be impeccable with your word.
That's right.
And these agreements are basically, the idea was, we talked about last time, you strip yourself of any preconceived ideas or agreements you had made on beliefs, and then you create new ones. And he's saying that we should live by these, which I think they're solid, all four of them. But the second one that we're going to talk about today is don't take anything personally. Now, this is the most difficult one for me to live by this, because
For me too.
it's easy to fall into a situation. I remember a couple years ago, there was a lot of I've always been somebody that had lots of acquaintances, friendships, and everything. And then when the pandemic happened, things got tense for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And I believe that in difficult situations, people show their true colors. That's what I think. But, also you have some situations that maybe you're not acting in the right mind or whatever the case. But I think people show their true colors. Anyways, there were unfortunately or whatever the case, some relationships that dissipated that I had. And friendships. And I remember talking with my wife at the time, and I remember trying to not take things personal and explain, like, hey, this isn't a personal thing against, let's say, me or us. It's just, it's not working out anymore. The relationship, the friendship. And the way that I, in my head, and let me know what you think about this. This is how I reasoned it. I said, look, if you have an idea, something that you propose, let's say I say that the United States is the best country in the world, right? I put that argument out. That argument is not me. So if you were to come and say and disagree with this argument and give me all kinds of reasons why you believe that the United States is not the best country in the world, then if I think that you're attacking me and I don't realize that this idea, this belief is not me, it's separate from me. If I realize that it's separate from me, then I shouldn't take it personal. The fact that you have other views, it's not an attack on me. But I think what happens, and what's happened to me in the past, is that the idea becomes us. And we think that because you're shooting down an idea, a strong belief, whether it's a religion or just a way of belief, we think you're attacking us. I think you're attacking me. And that's when I take it personally. So that's the way that I tried to figure it out with her and eventually get over some of these difficult situations, because the relationships that I thought were strong went away.
Wow. That's interesting.
How do you not take things how do you not take, it says don't take anything personally, right? It says
Yes.
Don't take anything
Don't take anything personally. That's right.
How do you do that?
Well, for me, it's extremely difficult. So I have to remind myself of this agreement like 10 times a day, okay? In order to not take some things personal. I agree with what you said, but except one thing, because when you have an idea on something and you propose an idea on something, you're saying this idea is not me. But I kind of disagree with that, because isn't that idea part of you? Some part of you? It comes from within you. So your idea is, it's different that the idea becomes you, or That would be 100% of the thing. But the reason we do take things personal is because I think, I could be wrong, you know, how do you separate yourself from your idea? Because you've come to this idea based on your experiences in life, what you have learned in life, the things that have happened to you. So how do you separate yourself from that idea and not allow someone that's attacking your idea not get to you?
I think it's very difficult, but I think that should we be married to any particular idea? Like, what if can't we change our ideas?
Yes, we can.
And if we're married to that idea and we're not willing to hear other perspectives or see that idea get butchered by somebody else, maybe it impedes growth.
I agree. We should be able to listen to someone else. What did you say? Destroyed your idea?
Yeah, have them butcher it.
Have him butcher it. We should be able to. I think Joe Rogan, I give him a lot of credit. I think he's actually very bright. You know, I think he's quite smart. But he has said, you know, hey, we have to keep lines of communication open. And I've read that from Jordan Peterson. He's a proponent of keeping lines of communication open at all times. The minute the communication stops, I believe that that's when everything goes downhill. We need an exchange of ideas and a conversation going in order to try to reach common ground, if it's at all possible.
Right.
When you have your core ideas,
yeah, your core beliefs,
being tested, that's why you see people get extremely what's the word I'm looking for?
Maybe altered, aggressive.
Yes, that's
emotional.
Emotional. Exactly.
Yeah, because I would say, like, in this situation, if you're emotionally charged because somebody's attacking your idea, you lose. You typically lose.
I would think so. You're not thinking straight, according to Peterson.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think, but obviously I'm saying this in a calm state, and I'm just talking about. But when it actually happens, and it's personal now, and somebody's attacking you, or your. I remember in shout out to Sensei Bill in martial arts training. I remember him saying, "Look, you're at a bar, and because he's training you to be able to use your body as a weapon," is what he would say. So he would say, "You're at a bar. Someone makes a comment about your mom." And he would say it. "Your mom's a blank. Something bad." And then he says, "How do you react?" He says, there's two ways of looking at this. You just told me my mom's a something. And so he says, one is, it could be true, and your mom really is that. So he's right. Well, are you going to fight him? The second one is, it's not true. So what does it matter? So it's that taking that comment and like separating it from you. He's attacking your mom. Let's look at this one of two ways. Instead of saying, "What? You talked about my mom," boom, you end up in a bar fight, you end up dead.
Yeah. I know someone who would strongly disagree with Sensei Bill.
My mom?
Well, Dan Pena. Dan Pena. You
go down fighting.
Oh, he's brought something similar to this up where he said if somebody said something
about his wife. If somebody spit on his wife.
Yeah, something like that. He would you'd be spending the rest of your month in an intensive care unit.
Yeah, he would go to jail, or he'd get killed or whatever. Yeah, he has said that.
Yeah, so there's
always different perspectives.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting because it's separating the statement or the argument or whatever from yourself.
Right. But when you're talking about your core values and somebody's just destroying them, it's very difficult not to take things personal, because
Yeah.
my humble 2 cents is I'm part of my core values. I'm going to have to defend them. And so as long as we keep the dialogue open, we're good. The minute that the dialogue gets shut down because we start a screaming match between the two of us or whatever, then things will go downhill. And someone needs to put the brakes on it, and not let it escalate to a point where, it's just going to get really bad and out of hand and maybe even physical.
Right.
And someone will get hurt. So I think it takes a lot of restraint, a lot of self-introspect, wisdom, whatever you want to call it, and for someone to say, okay, this is as far as we need to go on this. We agree to disagree on this topic. Let's just let it be.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, I think Jordan Peterson says, many times you're not going to be able to change the other person's mind. And you should listen to the other person as if they have something worthwhile to give to or contribute to the conversation, and something for you to learn. Something for you to learn. And so, but disagreement, not take anything personal. I mean, Don Miguel Ruiz, my hat's off to you, because it's a very difficult one to practice.
Yeah. Is there any instance you can think of where you took something personal and it didn't work out for you?
Oh, many.
Yeah.
Many. And see, there's one particular case where somebody that I considered a friend said something to somebody else. And I heard it from another person yet. Okay?
Not from the source.
Not from the source. Now, what came back to me was something that was relatively private, that the person that told me had no way of knowing it, and the person he heard it from had no way of knowing it, and that my friend was the only one that potentially knew it. There were 2 or 3 people, but he was one. So this guy hears it from him, tells this other guy, and this other guy tells me. So can you imagine? This is 4th removed, right? No, 1, 2,
Third.
3 people removed, but it comes back to me. I took it extremely personal, and my trust in that so-called friend went down the tubes, and it went downhill, right? I took it extremely personal.
Yeah.
Well, as a couple of years went by, okay, because I immediately cut ties. No communication. I never called the guy back, and I said, hey, I told you this in confidence, and you mentioned it to A, and A mentioned it to B, and B mentioned it to me, and they didn't know it. You were the only one to know it. So I never did that. Had I done that...
Oh, you never made that call?
No, I never made the call to my friend. He was more than an acquaintance, I never made the call. I just cut it. I took it very personal, and I cut it. Okay? Had I made that call, I would have realized that the intentions by which things got done were not malevolent. It was a slip of the tongue, a true, what do you call it, Freudian slip or whatever. It was a slip of the tongue, and then something was said that justified, not the slip, but he said, hey, it wasn't a malevolent, it wasn't in a mean-spirited way. It was that particular person had a good heart, but I cut the relationship. I never made that call.
Yeah.
And by not making that call, I hurt that person's feeling. They knew they had made a mistake, but they never called me either. So potentially, that's a good man, a good friendship, a good relationship that could have flourished.
Mm-hmm.
Did not, for something silly. I was immature many years ago, lack wisdom, lack all kinds of things, because we're always in a state of growth.
Of course.
You never want to think you're full of wisdom and this and that, because you're not. You're full of baloney. If you think that you know a lot, you're full of baloney, because you have to continue to learn every day.
Yeah.
And there's so much knowledge out there that you would spend 10 lifetimes trying to learn and you would not reach. Okay? So, but had I made that phone call, we might have been able to patch it up.
Work it out.
Yeah. And I never did, and he never called me back. And we used to see each other because he was a businessman too. We used to see each other in circles, and we were cordial with each other. Hey, hi, how you doing? Hey, hi, how you doing? So he realized he had made a mistake by slip of the tongue. But who is perfect under this sun? Okay? Who is perfect under this sun? No one.
No.
And so years later, like 3 years later, 4 years later, it came out that this situation had occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unique, and I could understand, but it was too late, because I took it personal, never reached out for a clarification, and his feelings were hurt, never reached out.
And you
so
both moved on.
We moved on.
Yeah.
And we had a good friend, a decent thing. It could have flourished into something real good, but it never did. And I think back on that, and I blame myself for it. Because I think lines of communication, and you see it in our real estate business, We made that offer on that commercial building. We were talking. It came back, and I said, I think we're too far away. We're too far apart. That was a mistake. We're far apart, but can we get closer? And the other party wasn't very receptive either. But I look back and I think, maybe if I would have stayed in the game a little longer. But I pulled myself out. I had so many things I had going on. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing. You have a lot of stuff
Yeah.
in everybody's world. Everybody is running ragged, right? Doing all kinds of things in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that in situations, I think we have to kind of introspect also and say, hey, was that a situation maybe I took things personal? I could have handled it better. Or if something's happening, like recently we were having a discussion. This morning we were having a discussion where someone was asking for something of someone else, right?
Money.
And it's easy in those situations to say, hey, take it personal. You're asking me for money or whatever the case, right? But it's not. Everybody's looking out for their own. And just like a kid will try and push the limit, maybe
Sure.
take advantage because they don't know or they're trying to see, so will people. They'll try to push the limit and sometimes take advantage. And it's not necessarily a personal thing. This is just maybe their nature. But this is the most difficult one for me.
Oh, for me also. You're human.
I think that all of us attach to certain ideas, like you said, and those ideas make up who we are, right? And if we're not willing to let go of some of those, or at least entertain the idea that, hey, maybe that's wrong. I mean, in another video, I had maybe in the first agreement, I had mentioned it, like, even the religion that you believe in, when you ask yourself, why are you that religion? It's because usually, not everybody, but usually my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, this is what we And if you look at the history of religion and how it's been spread, especially when you look at the Spanish who brought their religion to this is the Toltec wisdom is from Don Miguel Ruiz, right? He's talking about the Toltecs.
Mm-hmm.
The Spanish who brought their religion to the Aztecs and the Mayas and by force. The Taínos in the Caribbean.
And it depends also. Yes, absolutely.
It wasn't and so now we have these generations that believe in Christianity, Catholicism, all these things, but why? It's because the Spanish came, or whatever country, and was pushing their religion. And so, anyways, he talks about religion too in the book.
Well, it's a fiery subject. But let me tell you this. It depends. Look, what do I know about anything? And the answer is, I know nothing.
But through conversation, maybe we get a little closer to figuring it out.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So it depends on the environmental, the circumstances revolving around current affairs. And when I say current affairs, I don't mean today. If we're looking at decisions that were made back in the days of Babylon, or 3,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, the conditions were different than they are today. And by what I mean by that is, for example, I read an article the other day, okay, about something that's happening currently in the United States, where Muslims and Christians have joined forces, and they're extremely friendly with each other because they're pursuing a common goal. Okay? And without getting into anything, it's got to do with education. Okay? They are in agreement within their core values. They've put their differences aside, whether it's the religion aspect of things, and they have united in a common force, and they're going to be formidable, to say the least. Okay? Because these are two, I would think, very bright, groups of people that are going to push forward together for this common goal.
For a common goal.
For a common goal. Yeah. Okay? That they believe is good.
Wow.
Okay? And it's got to do with children's education in the United States of America. And I was reading an article that's extremely interesting about that. Yeah. And the article, I think, showed a picture. They're hugging each other. Okay?
Yeah.
So there is a common ground there that united them.
I think that's a cool example. I mean, if you are able to set your differences aside and not
realize,
not take everything personally, realize that we can actually work together.
Work together, you know?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's what I say this a lot. We're all trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Take care of our families, have a decent life, and try to give them some kind of future. When things go down the pike, Mike, is when people lose hope.
Yeah.
I mean, I see some things in third world countries that, I mean, devastating.
Yeah.
Okay, in other countries. And you said something yesterday or the day before, but it's in the last couple of days. It's just a lot going on. So anyway, you said that somebody came from another country, was here in the United States for a short period of time.
Yeah.
And the person that sponsored that trip said, well, what do you think? And what was the reply?
They said, no comparison. They were coming from the Philippines.
From the Philippines.
They came to the United States. They were here for 3 days. And on the third day, they were asked,
what do you think?
What do you think so far? No comparison. You know, it was just such a positive experience here, and she wanted to stay, you know. and I think she did.
And I think the Philippines, you can have a very good life over there.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what part of the Philippines.
Yeah, yeah.
But
No
but
comparison.
No comparison were her words. So yeah, I think coming here, if you're here, and you can make an opportunity, if you can create opportunities, if you can, it's not that there aren't challenges here,
A ton.
but we just got to make the best with what we got, and try to push forward. But yeah, I think this is a solid agreement. I think it's the most difficult one.
It is. I don't know where I got this. I wish I knew the source so I could credit them. But somebody was saying, look, try to be in a continuous state of gratefulness. Be grateful. If you have one slice of pizza, don't look at that and say, hey, I wish I had 4 more. Be grateful that you have one slice. Eat it and enjoy it and move on. If you have, a bike, don't say, oh my God, I wish I had a car. You have the bike, enjoy it, do whatever you have to do with it, and move on. Be in a state of gratefulness. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be complacent, okay? If you have a bike and you want a car, then work and figure out how you can get a car. More power to you. And then after the car, you buy a house, and then, more power to you, okay? But be in a state of gratefulness. And if you are, potentially that's like a shield that will inhibit some of these arrows coming in. If you can picture that when you close your eyes, these assaults against your core values that you would potentially take, offense to them. Okay? Don't take anything personal. If you're in a state of gratefulness, it may be a little harder to have those poison arrows penetrate.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
What I do know is that it's very difficult for me to practice it and implement it. Because it's easy to, when somebody says something to destroy or crumble up what you believe in, it's very easy for me to react.
Yeah.
I come from a culture that's...
I mean, even fire with fire. Even yesterday in the morning, we had a strong exchange.
We sure did.
And I reacted strong because, I felt what you said strong, but it's because I took it personal.
Yeah, and so did I.
And so I think that's we both lose in that situation. And later on I said, hey, I shouldn't have reacted that way, but in that moment it's difficult.
It's difficult.
But I think one of the great things that this has helped, even these conversations, is bringing some of these things. I mean, I read this book a long, long time ago. My friend Jeremy gave it to me a couple years back, and it was great. And I don't know if you remember the story. He put towards the middle or the end of the book $100 bill in the book.
I do remember that.
Yeah, that was really cool because I didn't see it. He had folded it up and put it in there, and so I'm reading the book, and then all of a sudden I see it one day, and I said, "Oh, I can't get that money until I get to that page."
But let me ask you, see, Jeremy, what a stroke of wisdom. You are wise beyond your years, Jeremy. So, did you call him when you found that
Oh,
one?
yeah.
So he knows you got to that page.
Yeah.
Because how would you find it if you don't read the book?
Right.
So that was him checking up on you to see if you were really reading that book or not.
It was good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna have to give him a book and do the same thing.
No. Well, now you just he's probably a subscriber, so you just gave it away. But
yeah,
I think it's really cool to do
yeah,
that.
yeah, I think that's a great gift. if you
Oh,
can do
not
that.
only that,
It doesn't have to be $100.
No, you know what some people will do? They'll get to the middle of the book and find a chapter and then dedicate the book again, but with a different idea of if somebody gives you a gift, hey, this is for you, Mike, enjoy it. I know you like this kind of stuff, blah, 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 Jeremy. But then you get to chapter 12, which the book has 24 chapters, and then they dedicate. I've had that happen to me. They'll dedicate, and then I call them, hey.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. But hey, $100, Jeremy. That's very nice, very cool. It goes. That's a friendship.
He's a good buddy.
He's a good buddy.
He's a good buddy.
A friendship to continue with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool. Anything else you want to throw in before we wrap it up?
I did have another idea, but now we got, there was, I don't know why this came to mind. We were talking about this the other day where I don't know if it was Mike Tyson or somebody, or Andrew Tate. Somebody.
I think Tyson. You were talking about Tyson.
Yeah. But, because we ran into a little bit of a speed bump yesterday. And we were going, oh, man, this and that and whatever. And the thought came to mind, you know what? Somebody said, hey, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going through a rough patch, keep going, because you're going to pass it, okay? Don't stop, because then you're going to be there for quite a while. So if on your path you hit something, keep going, because eventually you're going to pass it. And they make a reference to I believe it's a sandstorm, where there's two different type of animals. One of them stays and gets hit by that continuously, and the buffalo continues to walk, or continues, his stride. And eventually the buffalo walks out of the storm. The sandstorm continues, right? But keep walking, keep going. Don't be relentless. Keep walking. Keep that energy going. Because eventually the buffalo walks out of the other side of the storm and gets through with it. And then the other animal, once the storm comes, just hunkers down, waiting for the storm to pass. And it'll take forever, according to this book or whatever that I was doing. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So just keep going. And a lot of these things, don't take anything personal. All we can do is strive to try to be the best we can with it.
I agree.
Yeah?
Cool. We'll wrap it up there.
All right.
Thank you.